If I tell you where I'm going, it won't be a vacation. Welcome everyone to Love Like Hate, where I talk about films I never saw in the theater or that I'm reviewing late. I am attempting to review this series of Mission Impossible, and if you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, I'm basically collabing with fellow YouTubers on this Mission Impossible series. And here we are on the second film of the franchise, the less appreciated one, I should say. And before I get into my thoughts on this film, I will be passing this over to Tyler Calvert. So, without further ado, Tyler, take it away.
How's it going, everybody? My name's Tyler. Just want to give a quick thank you to Douglas for wanting to be on this journey as he does these collaborations leading up to Mission Impossible Fallout. I've always been a pretty big Mission Impossible fan myself, so I'm also looking forward to Mission Impossible Fallout. Just as Henry Cavill and that mustache, I was really excited about that. But yeah, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Obviously, I'm actually here today to talk about the one film from the Mission Impossible franchise that most people try to forget about. It's not talked about as much, and that's Mission Impossible 2. Now, the original Mission Impossible, directed by Brian De Palma, is fantastic in its own right, but ever since then, they've kind of tried to do a different director in each film, except for the last two, because Rogue Nation and the upcoming one, Fallout, are directed by Christopher McQuarrie. But this time around, they got John Woo, the famous Hong Kong director, to direct the Mission Impossible sequel. Now, John Woo's a great director. He's a pioneer in the action film genre with films like Hard Boiled, Face Off, and Hard Target. And he's got his own style because he's got all these crazy action scenes, high-octane action scenes, tons of doves. He really likes doves in pretty much any film. If you like doves, you're going to love this guy, especially if you also love slow-mo. I kid you not, back before Zack Snyder did slow-mo in pretty much every film he's ever done, John Woo did a lot of slow-mo, and there's a lot of it in Mission Impossible 2. I really like John Woo's style of action. However, I don't think it really translated as well becoming this Mission Impossible 2 because it's so vastly different than the original Mission Impossible. I mean, you still get your action set pieces that you really enjoy, your stunts that are in every Mission Impossible film. In this one, you got the opening rock climbing scene, which is really cool. I mean, it's still really cool even after 18 years. And you got the motorcycle chase scene with the Tom Cruise riding around, the glasses on, gave me vibes of like The Matrix and the Terminator. Of course, we can't discuss Mission Impossible 2 without mentioning the final fight scene between Tom Cruise and Dougray Scott, where he's coming in with a knife and the knife is literally like a centimeter away from Tom Cruise's eyeball. That's real. Tom Cruise actually, they actually filmed that with a real knife and everything. That's insane, by the way. I would never do that. I don't know anyone that would other than Tom Cruise. That was just a quick little, gloss over of all my favorite action scenes from the film. However, the story, it's pretty generic. It's pretty much just Ethan Hunt has to find and destroy this virus before it infects everybody around the world. And Dougray Scott stole the antidote to the, virus, and he obviously wants to use it for nefarious reasons. Wants to, obviously he could sell it on the black market, or so to speak, if it's the only way to get the antidote for this virus. Could just be me because I'm a fan of both franchises, but it did kind of remind me more of a plot for a James Bond film, really. And there's a lot of similarities between this and a James Bond film, especially like GoldenEye. If you ever watch GoldenEye and then watch this, they're very similar in some regards. But just the whole plot, and Ethan Hunt's completely different than he was in the first movie, and this movie, he's more of like a cocky, arrogant playboy type like a James Bond, and he has a love interest and a love triangle for some reason, because Thandie Newton's used to be involved with Dougray Scott, and now, he's with Tom Cruise is, into her, so they have a weird love triangle in this Mission Impossible, which is really weird, but I don't remember there being any other love triangles in any of the Mission Impossibles. It's usually just Ethan Hunt and one girl, and there's never a triangle, so that was kind of a weird aspect. Thandie Newton did a good job, though. I really like her a lot now. I didn't like her as much back then. She's actually grown into a better actress since then. This came out in 2000. I'm sure many of you are aware by now that Dougray Scott was originally cast as Wolverine in the X-Men franchise, and since the shooting for this went over what they were supposed to, he couldn't, commit to the role, so it went to Hugh Jackman, and the rest is history, because Hugh Jackman's done a great job as Wolverine for the last 18 years, because that came out in 2000 as well. So, yeah, I think it's well known by now, but it has to be touched upon. I'm kind of happy that Hugh Jackman got the role over Dougray Scott, because Dougray Scott's okay in this film. Like, he's an okay villain. He's not top-notch, but he's serviceable enough in the villain role, but he's nothing special. I mean, I don't really know what Dougray Scott's been up to after this movie. I don't really follow his career that much. I'm sure looking back, he wished he had taken the role of Wolverine over this in Mission Impossible 2, but you know, we got Hugh Jackman out of it, so I can't be too mad at this film for it. Okay, so I did look it up just because I was curious. So I checked his IMDb page, and Dougray Scott's done a lot of stuff I didn't really care about or have seen. But I did forget that he was the villain in Taken 3, probably the worst Taken of the Taken films. So I guess that's something, you know. It's not Wolverine, but it's something. And he's in the Vatican Tapes and another couple TV shows I don't watch, so I guess go Dougray Scott. But yeah, that was just me getting off topic there. If you like, you know, straight up shoot 'em up kind of style action films with not like a lot of plot details, I think you'll like Mission Impossible 2 more. Just if you've watched the other films, it's just not as good as the other films. It's definitely vastly inferior compared to the original Mission Impossible. And then you get Rogue Nation, 3, Rogue Nation, and Ghost Protocol's also in between them. But they're just all much better films overall than Mission Impossible 2. That's why this one gets stomped on so much by everybody. I mean, it's got some good action. It's got okay performances from Tom Cruise and Thandie Newton, and Anthony Hopkins, Ving Rhames are in this as well. But it's just not overall like a Mission Impossible film to me. It's just the one you forget about that happened. It can be enjoyed somewhat, though, as an action film in certain aspects. It's just probably my least favorite in the Mission Impossible franchise because so many of the other sequels and the original are much better. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. I think I would kind of recommend this film just to complete the Mission Impossible films if you're going to watch all the Mission Impossible films leading up to Fallout. You don't have to watch it. You can really just skip this movie and skip right to 3 if you really wanted to, if you want to just act like it didn't happen. But if you're a completionist like myself, you got to watch them all. But yeah, once again, thank you, Douglas, for letting me be on here talking about Mission Impossible 2. If any of you don't know who I am, my name is Tyler Calvert. I do movie reviews, trailer reactions, unboxings here and there, not as many as I have been, but I also do Blu-ray hauls at the end of every month. Lots of variety of fun stuff on my channel. Feel free to click on over, check it out, leave a comment. I'll definitely respond to you. I love talking to anybody about movies, TV shows, all that jazz. But yeah, that's just my thoughts about the movie. Let's get on to Douglas's.
Thank you, sir. So to piggyback off what you're saying, kind of recommend this film is what I would say when it comes to the progression of these films. You get a suspense-filled first film, and then suddenly the sequel is an action drama, and there's no bridge to transition well into the next film, so it's really different to see this devil-may-care Ethan Hunt rather than the underdog amongst wolves. We never really get to see how Ethan got to that moment where everything was so super cool, secret spy stuff, and climbing on mountains with no gear, using only chalk. Yeah! My thoughts really don't differ from Tyler's, in all honesty. I agree with him in saying this is more like a Bond film, and good lord, does that make me really want to petition for a huge epic crossover between Ethan Hunt, James Bond, Jason Bourne, and Jack Bauer. It's something I've been dreaming about for years. Don't judge me. But anyway, I would have to say while the action and the stunts are good in this movie, it does kind of drag for a bit while the pieces are falling into place. The IMF wants Naya for a specific reason and wished for Ethan Hunt to recruit her. Trouble is, Ethan ends up sleeping with her and has feelings for her, and the IMF wants to use her to regain contact with a rogue IMF agent who's starting this mess with the Chimera virus, and he also knows Ethan, and he even uses Ethan's likeness to double-cross him. Which is cool in of itself, but moments like that are far between. The action mostly happens towards the end of the film, which is great, but as Anthony Hopkins said, and oh my god, I just remembered Anthony Hopkins is in this movie. They pulled poor Anthony Hopkins into this. Anyway, this isn't Mission Difficult, this is Mission Impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you. And while that is a interesting and self-aware line in its cool fashion, it's cheesy as all get out in this film. Cringeworthy for some and just plain funny for others. But it's true in this case. This movie should have been called Mission Difficult. Not much else. Ethan does one mission that requires some difficult timing to pull off. It's stuff like that where you're like, I could have done more with missions like that. Like, why weren't they sprinkled out through the rest of this film? Ethan's supposed to have like this super brain. He's confident and cocky about what he's going to deal with when he has to retrieve something or get someone or do something. Instead, you get only one mission like that, and it turns back into a romance all over again. One thing I would say I feel was so impossible were the masks used in this film. They can be prepped in no time, capture the likeness of anyone they imposter, and handy for tight situations when there's no way they could be made in that moment. Even if you had to pull it out of your ass and be like, okay, I got this for safe. Let me get this. We're good! I am somebody else now, yeah! Take, for instance, Dougray Scott's right-hand man is fighting Ethan in a corridor. A grenade goes off and everything explodes, leaving the fate of both unknown. The next scene, the right-hand man is dragging Ethan's body to Dougray Scott's character, and we think this is it. Ethan is in the clutches of the villain, and Dougray just straight up tortures and shoots Ethan to death. But oops, there's a twist in the whole thing. It turns out Ethan put a mask on the right-hand man, and Ethan took the persona of the right-hand man.
What?
How in the hell could that be accomplished in 30 seconds? It's stuff like that that makes you roll your eyes, and it's situations that make this movie just that much more out of reach from the rest of them. This movie is fun, but it does drag. It has moments of awe as practicality is more unfocused with Ethan climbing the mountain and scenes Tyler spoke of with the knife. All were pretty real. But all in all, this movie is enjoyable. It's filled with slow-mo, doves, fake-out masks that John Woo obviously had a real fun time with. He was the director of Face Off, so take that as you should. For that, I'm gonna give Mission Impossible 2 like it, but if I wasn't an odd completionist, I probably wouldn't be owning this film. So I'm gonna give this film pretty much a guilty pleasure status. Guilty pleasure status. Wow, I couldn't even say that right. Yeah, being a completionist sucks. And that sums up my thoughts from Mission Impossible 2, the odd duck in the franchise. I rather enjoyed it. It's just nothing to really write home about. So next up is Mission Impossible 3. Stay tuned for that. That'll be out next week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, I do TV show reviews and movie reviews, and the ones that come together and make a universe. That's me. That's what I do. If that's interesting to you, please check that out. But all in all, if you guys could give me a like, a share, a comment, even a subscription, it'll be all better for it. I will be absolutely in your debt. Thank you all so much for watching once again, and as always, I'll get you more videos in the future.